Alright guys, I'm about to take out the 2006 GSXR 750. Now it's been a long waited video and now it's time to do the do. You've heard about it, you've seen it in images, now you're going to see it on the ride, kind of hear my impressions of it and sort of what the next step is for it. Things I've done to it since we last talked. I know I mentioned I had to do the rectifier, relocating that unit actually right here. So it's actually behind this air box. You can't see that. It's in there. So it's got constant airflow. Added a K&N race filter. And the Kropovich slip-on. The catalytic converter's gone. So straight out the exhaust. And I had the ECU flashed. That's roughly about a month ago. So the thing is probably putting something like 130, 133 to the wheel now. Whereas before I think they usually are around a 125, 128. I figured 5%, right? I can definitely tell the difference. The bike responds very, very well. It's a more immediate throttle response. And you know, the wheel will come up so easily. I mean, it would do it before, but now it's like you hit the throttle and the whole front end just lightens up. It's a very immediate and more present power delivery system now. And with the intake breathing better and exhaust flowing freer, it's doing its business. So we're gonna go for a ride, let you guys kind of see what it's like from my perspective. Beautiful bike. I'm very glad to have it. Let's go for a ride.
All right, guys, so I've talked about the GSXR 750 that I acquired. Did a little video about some repairs I had to make on it. And today, I'm going to take it for a ride to check out a few things I did in terms of upgrades. So once I finished the installation, I actually did notice quite a difference overall. Especially on the initial bite. So when the bike first takes off, you can definitely sense the power that's being the power that's being released immediately. Now this bike is geared pretty tall in my opinion. I mean, you could just hold it for however long. I'm in third gear at 45 miles per hour, turning about 47 RPM, 4,700. And it's not really breaking a sweat or anything. It's not really stressed. So there's tons of flexibility. That does mean that you do have to rev it to get everything out of it. I mean, unlike a 600, you don't have to rev it as high, but you still need to give it a good twist. I kind of found that most of the power comes on really, really hard. Well, initially, for one, but also at about 10,000 RPM. If you're familiar with the way 600s perform, you know that those bikes have to be wound out like you're trying to destroy them. And even though you're not, it feels like it. Whereas this bike, you don't have to go quite that far to get what you want out of it. I'm at about 7,000 RPM. It's screaming a little bit. I'm doing about 80. And when you roll on it, it definitely wakes up. Fourth gear. Again, like I said, with the gearing on this thing, you can kind of be in one gear for all sorts of riding situations. Taking it through the canyons, I found that I could be in pretty much fourth or third all the way through. Twisty sections, straightaways, long sweeping corners, and the bike would pull pretty strong. Now if it's in third, obviously you got more torque coming off because your RPMs are in the range where the torque is best. But it wasn't sloppy at fourth. I still felt like it was giving me a pretty good response to my input. It's wicked quick. And that's what the GSXR 750 is known for, is being just a super all-around bike. And you got to keep in mind, this used to be the super bike before the leader bikes came on, competing against 1000cc V-twins. I was talking about that initial bite, just off throttling first, and you know, I can accelerate hard on it, just twist the throttle back, and the front wheel will go light, and you can feel it just hovering. And if you really want to induce the wheelie, you just twist a little harder. You don't have to tug and pull and lean back. It just does it. And that's a quality I like in a bike. I mean, the thing that makes it so cool on this bike, I mean, you can do that on a lot of bikes. I mean, every 1000cc bike does that without a blink. But the fact that this is a 750, an old 750 at that, and it can still hold its own in that respect, is just super exhilarating. I gotta go through this water. It just does it so easily. The thing that's great about the 750, again, everything pretty much, but the thing that really makes it so desirable if you're someone who doesn't need the most powerful bike to do what you need to do, track day, commuting, sport riding, is that this bike is the perfect blend between both 600 and 1000. And it's very predictable. The control level in this bike is so much higher because you don't have to squeeze it so hard to get out what you are looking for. Just like that. If I want a wheelie, I just twist a little bit. If I want a bigger wheelie, twist a little bit more. It's light and agile and nimble like a 600, because that was what Suzuki was doing back in the day. This is a K6. So the 600 and 750 were twins. So what I was saying about the RPM, so at about 10,000 RPMs, this bike seriously wakes up. Great brakes. It seriously wakes up. I mean, it's alarming. I thought I was really getting a lot out of it at around 8, but for the situation I was in, that was where I needed to be in order to keep it as controlled as possible. And then I found a straightaway. I just dialed it in. I just, you know, twisted back. I hit about 10,000 RPM, and I swear it felt like the thing had secondaries that just woke up. And it was like, wait a minute. Don't you dare tell it it's not a 1000. Because when you push it hard, it can knock you on your ass. So as I said, I relocated the rectifier. Fortunately, I didn't need to do any stator replacement. Lucky there. Usually when one goes, the other is, you know, sure to follow. Just a whack. It's such a fun bike to ride. I seriously notice how much difference is made doing these upgrades. Better airflow through the filter. better power delivery with the flash, better outflow through the exhaust. And that's kind of all I feel I need to do to this bike. And I think that is all you need to do to it. Other than ride it like you mean it. That was crazy. The camera got all out of whack on the wheelie. That was a great wheelie though.
Okay, so net, I think with everything that's been done to this bike, the platform in which I started with, just the basic bike itself, was already a phenomenal bike. It has been for years and years, and that's why it's still on the production line today, and that's why Suzuki continues to upgrade and produce this bike. I couldn't have gone wrong with it, I don't think, and I think with the upgrades I did, as I mentioned on the ride and earlier, that I've done the K6 air filter, the ECU flash, the Akrapovic slip-on, allows great airflow, and then the race K6 air filter. It's a pretty good upgrade setup, and even though I don't have the commander on it, I think it's set up pretty well with the flash, that it's producing exactly what I wanted out of it. It's doing exactly what I wanted it to do, and every time I ride it, I'm kind of just thrilled to death with how it performs. I mean, it's everything I thought the bike would be. I mentioned in a previous video that this was one of the bikes I've always wanted to acquire, along with the RC51, and you know, I'm very satisfied with it. Sadly to say, with that all that said, I do think I'm going to sell it, and let me tell you why. As good as this bike is to ride, and as great as it performs, it's still a 750. So, not to downgrade it, not to play it down, but for the riding skill level I have, for the riding style I have, I feel like I can have a bigger, more powerful bike that has higher limits that I won't try to push. I think one of the beauties of having a leader bike nowadays, is that all those bikes seem to be 170 plus horsepower, is that you know where the limits are, and you know you probably can't reach those limits unless you're riding on a track on a regular basis. At some point, you're going to continue to want a little bit bigger. And when you get to a certain skill level in riding, you can handle a lot bit bigger and ride it at a level that makes sense, to where you're not going to endanger yourself or the people around you. And I think, you know, most of us who ride leader bikes, that's where we are. And a bike like this, as great as it is, it definitely could have been, it could not have been my only bike. But I don't think that it's something that I just have to have. Unlike the RC51, it's not the same level of a trophy piece. The RC51 just went away. And usually on products like that, cars or bikes, having one after they're no longer produced is a little bit more appealing than having one that you're going to ride all the time, or that is still produced, because it's a little bit more special. This bike is special, no doubt. They're still making it. The current bike, I think, puts out somewhere around 160 horsepower, which is crazy for a 750 displacement, but if you can do it, why not? And that keeps them relevant. That keeps their model offerings a wider portfolio, a range of things that they can create, and basically reach a bigger audience, because everybody doesn't want 1,000. I know, you know, like I just said, a 1,000cc bike will do everything you need it to do. It's just a matter of how you want to ride it. Some people just don't feel the need for that, and the fact that I have the ability to have the 1000cc in different forms made this bike an appealing consideration. And like I said, I've had a great time with it. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. But there are a lot of other bikes I'm thinking about right now that I want to add to the stable. And you know, if you know anything about me, my background, a lot of things pass through me. So it's a matter of how I feel on Tuesday from how I felt on Saturday. And Tuesday's about 3 days away. So I'm pretty sure that how I feel right now, I love it, but I think I'm gonna move it on. With the upgrades it has, I think it's gonna be a great bike for anybody who's probably coming off of something like a Ninja 650 or a CB 650, you know, the Honda four-cylinder, a CBR, sorry, the Honda four-cylinder that is not really quite a super sport, but it's got a bigger engine. It hadn't gotten great reviews, so I think somebody looking to get a little bit more out of their riding than that bike offers them, this would be a next step up. But this bike, again, this is definitely a bike that if you're looking to get some really intense super sport riding, the K6, the K7 were among the best model years for this motorcycle. I like this one because it has a very unique color scheme. I don't see this color scheme a lot. I'm not saying it's the most beautiful, but it's also not something that I dislike looking at. I mean, solid bike, very solid bike. Mileage, almost 17,000 miles, which is not bad considering this is an 06. But I absolutely like this bike a lot. And if it wasn't for my constant yearning and greediness to get to the next thing, I'd probably keep it. I'd actually considered shipping it off to a different location that I visit yearly and having it there, because I have roads there that would blow your mind. You think you want to racetrack some of the roads I rode. That's back where I grew up. And but I don't think having this bike in that scenario is going to be the most gratifying. Like I said, I think I could do a 1000cc bike that's got tons of power. And you know, at my age, I mean, I have the discipline to just chill out. So I'm not going to lose my mind and do things that are going to just be crazy, ridiculously dangerous. But I know my limits, and I typically will not push the limits of a bike beyond my comfort. This bike even has limits that I probably would not push unless I was on a track, or again, back at my hometown where the road is pretty much mine for miles and miles and miles. Maybe see one or two other bikes for, you know, the whole course of my trip, and that could be over the course of 2 or 3 hours. So that's a pretty ideal scenario for riding sport bikes. So again, this bike will probably be on sale on Craigslist within the next week. So if you're interested, hit me up. You can send a message through the YouTube page itself in the comment section, or you can also send me a note to my email address. It's awdreviews with a Z at gmail.com. And just let me know if you know someone interested, or if you're interested, just hit me up. But it'll be on Craigslist. And like I said, I am contemplating my next purchase. I don't have to wait till I sell this to buy whatever that is, but this is definitely going to go for sale. So stay tuned. As always, keep watching, subscribe, share, like, and be safe out there, guys. Enjoy it. Till the next time, all-wheel drive. Peace out.